Hey guys, Kevin Altman fishing here on this Sunday morning. I'm going to talk to you about stick baits. I fish stick baits a ton. I fish them when a lot of guys think they need to be put back on the shelf in the basement or in the garage. They're in mine and my dad's boat year round. We fish them year round, all water conditions, all water temperatures. It's one of those things where we both feel like we can pick up a stick bait, especially a clown rogue, when the water's clear and there's a little bit of wind, and we can pick up a few extra key fish if we absolutely need to. It's proved tried and true for us time and time again. So with that, I just showed you, this is an old school. I call it old school because it has the original black Excalibur twisted hooks. Rogues come with a very thin wire O-ring to attach the hooks, and this helps the bait stay pretty buoyant in the water. You can fish this on fairly light line and it's not going to get super deep. Now here's one that my dad made up last year. We wanted to get it down a little deeper and a little bit warmer water, so that's more of a wiggle wart style hook, a number 4 hook instead of the traditional number 6. And this bait, you could actually, about every 5 seconds, you could count it down to about a foot. So we're using 15-pound fluorocarbon with that. Pretty much exclusively use fluorocarbon with the stick baits, no matter the water temperature. Haven't had an issue with it, especially the Vicious, and Dad uses Seagar. So also love the Edwin Evers, the old Edwin Evers Excalibur baits. See, this is black and gold with an orange belly. Guys, we fish stick baits when a lot of guys are not. We fish them in dingy water, not muddy water, but the water's maybe 12 to 18 inches of visibility, pretty stained, pretty dingy, and we catch quite a few fish, especially on that black and gold. Another color we really like is this shad with the chartreuse on the belly and the navy blue eye. And of course, being from Missouri, Tim Hughes started painting this bait, this table rock shad, on Smithwick Rogues years ago, and a couple companies picked up on it. Love this color. That's a Spromic stick. As far as modifications to get it to do what we want, we simply change the O-rings. I'll take my pliers here so you guys can see. So that's a little bit heavier wired, a little bit larger O-ring. That's going to help the bait. I'll put one on the front, leave the rest of the stock ones on the back, and that'll give it a more nose down and make it pull the bait down a little bit if I use a little bit thicker wired hook. I watch a lot of videos from a lot of your stick bait guys, Randy Blockett, Kevin Van Dam, a lot of guys that always have stick baits in their boat but fish them kind of on opposite ends. Randy Blockett loves to use spinning gear. Kevin Van Dam's power fishing that thing, throwing it on heavier line and really ripping it. So I just I take what I need out of those videos, from those tips, and try to apply them to what we do. Typically 12-pound test line, like I said, is as low as we're going to go. A lot of times we're fishing in 15, 17-pound test line. A lot of the Ozark lakes that we fish have a lot of boat docks. We're fishing around lay downs. We'll fish this around the tops of lay downs and brush piles and things where when we hook these fish, we want to get them out. So a little bit about my setup here really quick. I have one ready to go for some upcoming tournaments next weekend. This is one of my favorite setups for stick baits. This is a Lew's Tournament MB, 6.8 to 1. Also have 7 to 1 in this. This is extremely economical reel. Retails for $139.99. This is an Enigma HPT high performance titanium. This is a 7-foot medium heavy fast action. I love. This is a super light setup. I can hold this in my hand all day, and my wrist isn't going to need to be iced after this, because I don't have to rip that bait, especially in cold water. This has 12-pound Vicious Pro Elite. I went down to the 12 for this because my next tournament's on Table Rock, and I'm sure the water's going to be in the upper 30s. So I'm going to want that bait to get a little bit deeper. But that's traditionally what we use. I know a lot of guys say you got to use 10-pound test line, 8-pound test line, super light wire hooks that come like on these Mega Bass. Aaron Martins has a new Gamakatsu G Finesse hook. I haven't actually got my hands on those yet, but I hear it's a really good stick bait hook. But we don't have a huge supply of the larger lipped stick baits. We traditionally stick with your standard, and we make these modifications to get them deeper or shallower. So I'm going to do a quick little demonstration for you guys here as well. So I change hooks on the water, guys. If you bend a hook, you want to change that hook, especially if you're in a tournament. So I learned this several years ago watching Kevin Van Dam on the Bass Pros. So you need a fine point pair of pliers. I hate O-ring or split ring pliers. I just ground these down a little bit. So you get the hook you want to take off. You just get it started. You pinch it with your pliers. Where'd it go? Then you take the hook you want to put on there. Here it is. You take the hook you want to put on there and you get it started. Then you hold on to the hook you're putting on and you just spin the O-ring. Just spin that O-ring around, and a few seconds later the hook you want off is going to be off and the hook you want on is on. There you go. Nice, quick, and easy. I always keep these pliers. I have 2 pairs in case I lose a pair. This pair I actually bought. This pair I had and actually took to a grinder to grind the point down so that I could grab those smaller O-rings. Like I said, you'll see several of the stick baits I've showed you guys have red hooks on them, especially in that clearer water, especially with the shad colored, the Clown Rogue, this crank wrapped Pro Blue here. And the water's clear. I love the red hooks. Dad and I did an experiment. I was in the front with a Clown Rogue like this, straight out of the box. He was in the back of the boat with a Clown Rogue like this. He wore me out, absolutely wore me out. And we were using the exact same rod, exact same reel, exact same line, and very similar cadence. And by cadence, I mean, you know, how we put action into the bait. So, you know, it made me a real believer, especially in the clearer water with the red hooks. You know, where we're going to fish this is everywhere. You know, we fish it deep, we fish it shallow, bluff banks, rock banks, transition banks, a little bit flatter banks, by laydowns, cover bushes, it doesn't matter. We will go back through an area with a stick bait. It is our confidence bait. If they're not hitting it or if they're nipping it, you know, we can change the color. Guys, the Crank Wraps has given us the ability to make that modification on the water. For instance, we were missing fish and having fish nip at this bait last spring. So I had an idea. I had some Crank Wraps in the boat. I made one of these up. Salvaged our day. We got some really good points for the tournament trails that we fish just by putting this Crank Wrap on there and going back through the exact same area we had just been. So guys, you got to look at the Crank Wraps. They're awesome. But aside from that, don't be afraid to throw a stick bait. If there's a little bit of wind, you know, sunny, cloudy, doesn't matter. But the key thing for us is the wind and the time of year where the fish are. We will go back through an area with a stick bait. We're not afraid to. It allows us to fish it on heavier line using these little bit stouter hooks. You know, like a lot of guys like Kevin Van Dam say, you always got to have slack in your line. So you need at least a 6.8 to 1 or higher gear ratioed reel so you can catch back up to those fish. Right, always remember, the colder the water, the longer the pause. You may even have the bait end up behind the boat. You're having to fish it so long. A lot of guys say they don't have the patience. Guys, in this really cold water, I think when we go down Table Rock next weekend, I think the water's probably 37, 38 degrees. We might find some 40-degree water. But we're going to have anywhere from, you know, a 10 to maybe a 30-second pause. That's really hard to do, but if that's what they want to hit it, that's what they're going to do. You know, I'm not going to force the issue with the stick bait. I mean, if it's super sunny and no wind, you know, we're going to have to find, you know, another, you know, technique to use. But day in and day out, I've got a lot of stick baits, and we fished stick baits for a lot of years on a lot of different lakes, and it's become our confidence bait. So guys, give this a try. If you're on a budget, $5.99 we'll buy you a Smithwick Rogue. They come in a lot of colors. This is Clown. They have a black and gold. They have the Table Rock Shad comes in a Smithwick Rogue as well. You don't have to change the hooks, you know, but if you're a tournament fisherman starting out, buy you a couple quality stick baits. You don't have to buy a Mega Bass. If you want to, by all means, go ahead. But you know, I don't have the confidence in the Mega Bass that I do, you know, these other brands, just because it's what I've fished. So I highly recommend fluorocarbon. Get you a quality fluorocarbon. You know, take care of your stuff, protect your line, and retie often. Guys, enjoy your time on the water. God bless, and remember, don't just hook them, jack them.